Chapter 14. Misha, about the Lord's presence. Misha says, "It is not even necessary. Let's be glad that we are what we are, and that we finally have before us physically in all the most endless sphere of effect what the elders strove for in vain, but always got totally lost in thin air. Observe Moses and all the prophets, then take the wise men of Egypt and Greece on top. Summarize their enormously mystical spiritual ideas about God's being. And you still have not even a grain of sand of that which we have here, tangibly, physically before us, in fullness. Moses, the greatest prophet, wanted to see God on Mount Sinai, but he received from the flaming cloud an answer with a voice of thunder that made the earth tremble. No one can see God and live. But we now see the same God, speak to him, are happy witnesses of his wisdom and omnipotence, and still live very well and very comfortably. If the good Moses sometimes felt somewhat strange on the mountain, particularly when 1,000 times 1,000 of the most powerfully cracking bolts of lightning played around his head at the same time, then that is very understandable. But if we here speak of a particular eeriness in the presence of the so very good and most pleasant God, then we fully deserve the harshest mocking. Didn't our forefathers enthuse about a Holy Father in heaven? But nonetheless could never gain any understanding of him. We now have the same Holy Father in all most tangible truth before us on this earth, which is now the heaven of all heavens. And we feel not at home. It is true that one must feel quite unaccustomed and different here than a child at home with his conceited toys. But for that, we are now also in a very curious school of life. When a child goes to school for the first time, he will certainly not feel as at home as with his toys in his parents' house. But when he goes to school for a year, then he will also feel as at home there as with his toys at home. But how he, our God, Master, Lord, and Father, nonetheless penetrates everything with his all-powerful will in the whole of infinity, from the greatest to the smallest thing, and is most clearly aware of all his endless and countless creations, from the greatest to the smallest. That, brother, is none of our business. And there is certainly nothing for us but to know and see that things are so, and must be so. Otherwise, all things would obviously instantly have to lose their objective existence. We must just have patience. Today we know this much. Tomorrow we will obviously know more. And in a year we should know much more than now at the beginning of our spiritual development, in which we nonetheless stand much higher than Moses and all the great and famous prophets before us, who with their most holy visions can hardly have guessed spiritually and then written down with highly mystical words and signs what we now can touch with our hands, without any mysticism. If we just consider that actively, we will immediately feel a lot more at home than Saul once felt among the prophets. The others say, "Yes, yes, you are completely correct, and we all feel much more at home already." What a person's reasonable word is capable of doing. Tsar, who until now had still been silent, but otherwise always full of cheerfulness in his mind, says, "It is laughable what foolish things the cleverest men often say. Mitya, the weakest among us, has nonetheless brought to light the very cleverest opinion. How could one feel here in the least strange and eerie? Quite the opposite. We are now in exactly the right spot. We are with God, our eternal Creator and Father. We began with Him and have now turned back again as far as possible. What are we talking about feeling uncomfortable for? We have only just come home." No, what strange opinions brothers Rob and Boz have. What do you say to that, Mathal?